Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a PCP bonus
fuck
episode.
you, Munchie. Munchie, fuck you, piece of shit. You're too good to be on the bonus episode.
Too good.
You show up and you're like, oh, what? Topics? Topics is the topic? I don't have anything to say. What could we... Has anyone put any thought into what we're going to say? Do we have a script? Have we really planned this out? Like, no, thanks, guys. No, good luck with that.
Munchie's been on the record as opposing topics, and so to have a topic episode about topics just repulses him to his very core.
I'm also on the record as opposing topics. Is it controversial? Is topics controversial anymore?
It's
not
controversial
really. I mean, there's some
among the
disagreement,
people, the viewers. There is a contingent of viewers.
That's what I'm
want
asking.
topics back.
That's really. Why?
I mean, there's some, sure.
Because we waffle on a lot in some of these episodes, and I mean, I'm kind of.
It's time for a deep dive. Yeah,
we're gonna explore this topic in depth.
Here's, I guess I'll just give my take right off the bat. Okay,
sure.
You got two scenarios. Well, when there is a topic, we don't stay on the topic. We go off and we talk about whatever we want, as much as we please. Sometimes, though, it has led to some episodes, Monsters, for example, that, like, everyone hates. Everyone agrees they are terrible.
But Monsters 2 was legendary.
That's true. We made lemonade out of those lemons, yeah.
We gotta back up for a second. We have to lay out, like, why we're even talking about topics in the first place.
Sure, okay.
I mean, reason one, because it's a funny meta gag for the topic to be topics
but, like,
themselves.
For the serious, like, because, like, not everybody might even be aware of, like, why this is even up for debate. It's because the beginning of the Pro Crastinators, not everybody has watched, because it's been going on for, like, 200 fucking episodes now. They were all about topics. It was like we would decide on a topic, we would do an episode about it, it would go off the rails 100% of the time, but there would be some sort of common starting place, and it would be a way to try and, like, entice people to watch the episode because you would know what you were potentially getting into going in. And
also, there was another element, which was where we kind of discouraged people to not go, or we discouraged them from coming on the episode if they didn't have something to say about said topic, generally.
So this worked well in the beginning. The problem we inevitably ran into is that we just couldn't come up with good ideas, which led to weeks like Monsters, where we just pulled it out of our ass, and none of us really had anything to say about it, but it had to get done. The show had to go on. We had to collect that paycheck. So we made the at some point we decided,
regrets.
You know, if we're just going off the rails anyways, instead of, like, waffling about for, like, a half an hour and then getting into whatever's on our minds, let's just skip that first part that could be bullshit and just go to the off the rails. Let's just be off the rails by design. And so the formless episodes, which I believe the first one we did was called Formless, and they just kind of became the norm very quickly because it required less preparation from us of having to sweat over what is our topic going to be this week.
There was like when there were topics, like in the week before, everyone would be like, guys, what's the topic for in this episode? What's the topic for in this episode? And sometimes we'd all agree on it really fast and be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's talk about that. And other times it'd be like, yeah, right up until the end, right up until the episode, we're like, guys, we gotta pick something. We gotta pick something. We settle on something like Monsters. We try and fail to say anything interesting about Monsters. My contention is that if there is anything worthwhile to talk about, if we just show up and start talking, it comes out on its own. Like, they'll come out on their own. We don't. There's no need to to set it in stone ahead of time.
Okay, look, I understand. Here's where we definitely have our difference of views on the subject. Because I mean, you're bringing up examples such as Monsters as the worst examples that come from the formula.
That is the worst case scenario. Yes,
right, which is totally fair to identify. But there's a lot of better case scenarios. Okay, so yes, as you said, it's perfectly fair to say that, like, any interesting topic of discussion. Okay, say for example, on the next episode of the PCB, I'm definitely going to bring up the Steven Universe finale, which I should have done last time and I forgot to. So, like, that's something that most of us care about. Most of us will have seen and will be able to comment on. Okay, fine, cool. But I would say that the element that's not being discussed here, and is the one that I think has the most potential, maybe not the most, but a significant amount of potential to enhance the show, is when a topic is decided. in the process of determining what that topic is and once it's there for everyone to consider. I do think there's an element of that brings out stuff that people wouldn't otherwise have thought about. One, because they're trying to contribute to the topic, and two, because in the process of deciding what there is to say, like that process of like mining for something to say can bring out a lot of things that don't seem obvious otherwise and can add a lot to the we shouldn't. It's not like you have to have something meaningful to say, because as I always say, I want the PCP just to be funny. To me, that's the most important thing. If we could just come up with some retarded thing to say that just is funny about the topic, to me, that is a perfectly good use of podcast time. As long as it's getting a laugh, I'm more than happy. So I think that's the other element on the opposite side. But the downside is that even I don't love about that is that it takes effort and it takes thinking, and no one likes to do that. I would argue that the amount of effort, like where I would want it to be is we decide a topic. I mean, in times when we want to do this, there's a topic to be decided, and then it just gives me personally like a platform to think about, like, okay, what can I say about this? I bet I can find something amusing to say about it. And I would argue usually, not every time, I'm able to. And I think it makes the show better. That's my position.
Only makes any sense to me if you're like, okay, so the topic this week is anime.
Gamer girls.
Oh, gamer girls. Sure. Okay,
yeah.
Better sit down and like write out a list of like topics I want to bring up related to gamer girls.
That's kind of what I do. That is kind of what I do.
Why?
I do. Because I want to talk about stuff on the show. I mean, because maybe my approach is different. I like doing the PCP. I'll pretty much do it no matter what, as long as I think I have anything to say, and I always do. And then usually I'll want to have something, decent to say. So that was my approach from the start.
Well, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's really weird. You have the same mentality as Munchie, like you which is like, oh, I gotta show up with like things planned to talk about. I gotta show up with a plan.
It's that thought. I'm not saying that's always the best, but it's that exact thought, and basically writing out an actual script that led to, like, for example, the roller coaster story, which I think we all agree was at least good.
Did you write that out ahead of time?
Yeah, because I knew there were specific beats I wanted to hit, and I didn't want to forget them. I didn't write out every word, but I did write out quite a bit of it, just because I wanted to make sure I didn't fuck it up when I was retelling the story. So yeah, I mean, I did.
Well, Nate, guess what? You fucked it up.
Wasn't worth it?
Because theme parks, amusement parks do not exist solely due to capitalism. So there you go. You've screwed it up. You twisted the logic.
Whoops, I forgot.
And there's the part at the end when you're cresting the roller coaster, you say, "I love capitalism," and I just want to, for the record, just want to, for the record, say that this is a misguided attitude. Look, never mind. That doesn't matter. The point is, okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine that you do that. I never, ever do that. I would never do such a thing.
Okay.
I mean, maybe if I was like, boy, I've got something that I really want to bring to the table on this next PCP, and I really want to make sure I get it exactly right. I have a very clear idea. I don't know. If I was going to do something, I would just make like a video about that. If I had like something, like I want a story that I want to tell in a very specific way, I would just make a video. I wouldn't come to the podcast with an idea like, okay, I'm going to write this out ahead of time. I don't know.
That roller coaster story is something that works on the PCP, but I mean, it's not my typical content or anything.
I think we're kind of losing the plot already. This is like talking about preparedness versus winging it when it comes to episodes.
It's all part of the same thing.
Well, Nate's claim that having a topic brings out like some new shit only makes sense.
It only
makes sense if you're prepping for the show ahead of time. Because what I'm saying is,
no, it's not even necessarily true.
No, let me explain. Okay. Let me explain why I think it is true. Because if we show up to a formless episode, topics naturally emerge, and we start talking about them, and then you're still talking about topics. Just they were decided on the fly. So if you're not prepping ahead of time, it's the same. You end up just talking about a topic on the fly, even whether the topic was decided ahead of time or not. That's
Okay, well, let's talk about, though, the major
that's
downside.
that's why for
to-
me, topics have
Okay.
absolutely no utility whatsoever.
Okay, well, I mean, I think there are strengths and weaknesses to both approach and whatnot, but let's talk about the obvious downsides of not having topics, which is, of course, the Pokemon and Politics podcast, and how, like it or not, there certainly is a contingent of people, maybe it's just due to the changes from the show to, I don't know, to topics to less or whatever, where because we haven't prepped, there's just a default to the topics that we regularly talk about and we keep up to date on, politics and Pokemon being the biggest meme examples, and makes the show less interesting and engaging for people because it's they're
what?
not guaranteed to get something new, perhaps.
Here, even in the olden days, even in the topics days, we still came back to the same topics over and over again. We still would have like long, boring sections of like you and Digi talking about like optimizing your YouTube SEO or whatever. The topics were no defense against that.
I mean, I agree, but
I think we're missing
I
the
don't even think
point
that's true. I think there were times at the beginning when that wasn't the case, because we'd say, sure, for a little bit you could spin off, but we'd be like, I mean, at least I think would say, okay, let's get back on topic. Who's got things to say about monsters or a good episode?
I mean, occasionally, but like, okay, if we were on a topic that we actually wanted to talk about, then you saying that would be like, okay, yes. But if we were on something else, one of the bad topics, then you might say that, and we'd all just be like, and then there's nothing to do except go off on some other tangent.
A lot of this has to do. Okay, here, Tom, you go ahead.
I think we're ignoring the real big strength of topics, which is not something we always leverage very well. But when we kind of did it coincidentally, it did work. Topics allow for the show to be accessible to other people, because if you look at the older episodes of the PCP that are topic driven, they have more views than the ones that come out now, because now that the show is a personality driven show with no like logical through line or topic for episodes, there's nobody coming in that is going to be able to make heads or tails of what the fuck we're talking about. It's just a bunch of personalities continuing a conversation from last week, for lack of a better word. The strength of topics is that you have something indexable and searchable and hopefully culturally relevant that can bring fresh blood to the channel.
Well, hold on. That's not a problem with topics versus not topic. That's just a problem with like naming. That's just a problem with naming the episodes.
Well,
right?
If you name a podcast something relevant and then don't talk about it, then it's just deceptive. But we do talk about like things that are going on in like media we've seen. We do talk about like, my contention is that we basically talk about the same shit whether we have a topic or not. So I don't know. I think
that's where I would disagree. I think
if you want to use topics effectively, you would purposely choose topics that would be relevant in the greater discussion and what's going on in popular culture.
Listen. I have the distinction, unlike the two of you plebeians, of having been on the Pizza Party podcast.
That's true.
And
right.
Rebel Taxi, he like on that episode that I was on, like we didn't stick to like one theme. Like we just brought up, there were like, they have like sections of like one part they'll talk about like cartoon news, and the other part they'll just talk about whatever's going on, just whatever the fuck they want. And nevertheless, when the episode comes out, he titles it based on like, he'll title it based on like one or two things that are maybe like the most relevant right now. He'll call it, oh, it's the episode about that, even though only a small portion of the episode is actually about that. And I feel like that's normal.
I'm curious about that, because that is a reasonable thing to bring up. First of all, like when they're editing it, do they cut out any like awkward moments or bits? Is that like part of the process to only leave I don't know, parts that make the cut?
They do. I think they do cut out bits. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm also curious, are those like regular sections? Like as the audience, am I here for my regular cartoon news section?
Yeah, they'll be like a while in, they'll be like, okay, it's time for the time in the show when we talk about like cartoon news. Who's got some cartoon news to bring up?
Well, I think you could argue that's kind of I mean, that's slightly different because that's like the same every week or something. But that's sort of a topic that's
No,
drawing.
it's actually entirely not at all the same for the reason you just said. That's not.
But,
That's not.
look,
That's
that
not
is
a
a
topic. If that
specific
were a topic, then
thing.
every episode would be called, "Oh, it's the cartoon news episode."
Well, they don't need that because it's embedded in the name Rebel Taxi. You know that that's part of it. I mean, if you're at all familiar with the
Nate,
show, which
I'm
I guess
sorry,
you wouldn't
but
be.
this is a terrible point. That's a totally different thing. Like the fact
We
that there
don't
is
have
the
regular
fact that there are
sections, Ben. They
segments
do.
in the show, the fact that there are consistently themed segments in the show, has nothing to do
You don't
with
think that
whether the
makes a
episode.
difference to the
Segments
show?
and topics are different, but they go towards the same goal of setting expectations and having you understand what the podcast is going to be about.
Yeah, which is yeah.
I mean, we could have sections. I mean, for a while we had the sort of semi-formal section where it's time to shit on the Pizza Party podcast. That was a segment, briefly, very briefly, forgettably. I mean, we could. I don't
Look,
I don't see how this is relevant at all.
The point is simply that is like a piece of a show that is known before you click on it, which I would argue is less prevalent in the formless PCP, which you click on it knowing, okay, this is the week where these guys will talk about things. I mean, maybe your argument is that we regularly talk about the same things, so like the expectation is the similar. I'll get my Pokemon news from the PCP, who will probably talk about it, but if that's not the point, then I think like having a dedicated segment gives a regularity to the show that lacks in the PCP. Because we don't have that. Where something like a name on an episode about a specific topic gives that feeling of, oh, I know what I'm getting when I click on this theme of an episode. Like I'm aware they're not the same, but they're getting, as Tom was saying, to the same point of giving a viewer like an assuredness of what they're getting when they click on the episode.
But
that
they don't put that in like the name or the thumbnail or the tags.
Well, are we concerned
not-
about new
it's
viewers
not
or regular
searchable.
viewers?
It's not.
I mean, it sounds like Ben. It sounds like the Pizza Party podcast does both, right? If they're highlighting the most relevant part of the conversation for new viewers, and then have segments that help the recurring viewers have some sort of structure and understand what they're getting into going in, sounds like they're doing both, right? I've not listened to
I
it,
guess
so I do not
I'm
know.
not here to argue against segments. Like I think segments. We don't have any segments. I'm not saying we shouldn't.
Segments-
Why are you conflating these things? These are two different things.
Ben,
I
how
guess-
many times do we have to say they're different things, Ben? There just are some
no.
similarities where
The
it's attempting to
reason,
get you to
the reason
understand.
that I'm bringing
You're
up
talking to me
segments-
like I'm arguing against segments. I'm not. I'm arguing
No.
against topics.
I think the reason I brought up segments is that the reason I would be interested in doing topics, and I'm not exactly decided one way or the other, but the reason I would understand wanting to be in favor of topics is for the same reasons and the same benefits that segments bring. The fact that you can help guide a potential viewer on what the show is going to be about. I think the key to topics and why they're valuable is intention, right? You can say, hey, this thing, whatever it may be, is being talked about in popular culture right now. And if our goal is to grow the podcast, we can decide to talk about that in the next episode to make sure that we hit that beat and possibly get more interaction than we would otherwise because we're talking about a hot button issue, as opposed to leaving it up to chance as to whether that's brought up or not. That's
If you're
really
talking-
the benefit.
If you're talking about getting more viewers, getting new clicks, clickability, that is like solely a function of like the name of the episode. And you can name the episode whatever you want, like whatever the most culturally relevant thing that comes up in the episode. You can still do that. You don't have to decide
Right.
on
But I'm saying
a like
if you
overarching theme.
let's say like something that's really popular going on right now, whatever. Maybe there's like a fucking movie that comes out and that's like a really hot button thing. And we can either decide to talk about that and have that be part of the marketing for the podcast episode, or if we don't decide to do that, we might not even bring it up, and then that opportunity is lost. There are other things that are probably relevant that we'll bring up just naturally because we live in a society, but the difference between topic and formless is that the topic will allow you to actually curate at least the starting point, the jumping off point of the discussion to make sure that it is relevant and helps grow the podcast. Because like my big issue with the PCP now is that it is so insular. Like it's incredibly tough to penetrate at this point because if you're not invested in the continual narrative of all of us as people, you have no idea what's going on when you just start up like last week's episode, especially now like that it's post Radcon and there's so much lore. Like there's a lot of layers in the PCP now, and we haven't done anything as of late to help kind of like funnel new people in, and that's why the channel's growth has been so like slow for the last like year and change. And there's a greater discussion to be had here on whether we're trying to do the PCP as a profitable venture or just as something we do in our spare time that happens to make a couple bucks. And I think deciding to abandon or bring back topics is like kind of like a fulcrum on deciding that direction or changing that direction going forward. Because right now we're definitely in a like it barely grows at all. It's kind of just like a miracle that it even has the money it does. We're just here to have a good time and hang out, and we're not thinking about marketing or branding or anything like that at all. It is just a byproduct, a secondary or third, tertiary part of all of our content strategies, and has nothing to do with anything.
But there's nothing about a formally topicless episode that precludes someone bringing up and discussing something that is culturally relevant, like a big popular thing, and then there's nothing stopping us from naming the episode after that thing. We can still talk about all those things, and like we've done that. Like didn't we do like a themed episode for Steven or for fucking the Steven Universe movie?
Yeah,
didn't we do one that was specifically
we've done a bunch
about
of Steven
that?
Universe themed episodes.
Yeah.
Even
I mean recently though. Yeah. Like if there is something that we're all like really thinking about and like we all want to talk about it, I'm not opposed to like, okay, once in a while, like, yeah, okay, this is going to be the episode where we talk about Steven Universe, this ending of Steven Universe, or what was the other one that we were all My
Little Pony movie, maybe?
I meant, well, yeah, that. But I was gonna say Gunbuster Diebuster, right?
Sure.
Like that's fine. I'm not against it. What I am against is like making it like the default. Like every episode must be themed. Like I feel like history has borne out that has not yielded great results. And when you say that like, oh, a theme helps someone like a viewer decide whether they want to watch the episode or whatever. I mean, does it? Because like our most popular regular episode was things we can't get into, but that episode is not. People don't watch it to hear, oh, let's find out what these guys aren't into. People like that one because it has all like the bullshit drama. It has like, oh, it's like Jesse being mad about the yellow stuff and Davoo kicking him, and like it was in the shit show. Right?
I mean, sure, but that's a very unique episode because very few of them have anything similar to that. But I mean, we did come in there, like we were all arguing about this thing, and then we jumped on the PCP to discuss it specifically. I think, if I remember how that one went.
The argument did start.
So obviously we were united around a topic to be discussed.
Well, that's what I mean. If we have something like that we're all talking about,
right.
Then sure, fine. We can do an
our
episode
main
that's about
disagreement.
that.
This is clearly our main disagreement. Okay, well, this has been interesting to hear your perspective. Okay, because I think this is the main issue. So Ben has clearly confirmed that, like, even if there is a topic, he, like, will do no prep work. Okay, he's a leech, he's a parasite, understood.
Well, it depends what you mean by prep work.
Oh, I'll tell you what I want ideally. Okay, I'm looking at old episodes and I'm looking at ones that seem good. Okay, here's a good one.
I mean, if we're talking about a movie or something, I'll go watch the movie. If that's prep work, then
it doesn't even. Okay, those are decent, but even easier than that. Okay, for example, one that I think is a good choice. Here's just an episode embarrassment. So, like, for that episode, like, a discussion was had, guys, what should it be? And someone's like, oh, what do we talk about? Embarrassing stories. Yeah, okay, that works. So, and then we like, at everyone, like, okay, guys, PCB episode is embarrassment. Like, be ready to say some things about embarrassment on the episode, because that's what we're arranging the episode about. Just that much prep work. What it does, it gets everybody thinking, because I do not agree that you will be able to remember everything and be able to say any decent stories you have about, for example, embarrassment on the episode. I think a little bit of thinking about it, even like as you're fucking in the shower, just going about your day, some thinking about what's something that relates to this topic that you could bring up that would make for, thematically relevant and amusing story is better.
How often, I mean, I don't have this problem. I don't think you have this problem. How often are we at like a lack of things to say? Like that
But
that never happens to me, that I show up to an episode and I'm just like, oh whoops, I don't have anything to say. I should have taken notes. I should have written an outline.
Well, I
Never.
don't know about you, Ben, but I definitely feel on episodes. I think in the last episode, I was thinking like I didn't have a ton to talk about.
The only time I get like that is when someone brings up a topic in an episode that I'm not interested in, and I check out. Like when
Okay, look, but what's the dichotomy here? It's not that there's an option, or there's only the states of like no one has anything to say, or like we're all centered around one option. Because I think a lot of the time we end up in the middle ground of kind of like default things to say because no one has anything particularly important to say, and we go back to old topics and it's not particularly interesting and doesn't really draw out anything new. Whereas I think having an organizing agent of something like a topic just gives us the ability to think about it in ways we might not otherwise would have, and draw out stuff that we just didn't think
genuinely think that you are pathologically dedicated to regimentation and order, and that it is coming out in this belief that you hold.
I mean, maybe so, but how can you argue against things like, for example, like decent episodes, like the embarrassment episode? I don't know, whatever. Like language.
I don't remember the embarrassment episode. Was that a good episode? I don't know.
It was a while back,
I mean, I don't even remember either. But I guarantee it was better than miscellaneous episode recently where we discussed the same stuff as always.
I don't. No, you're wrong. How can you guarantee that? On what basis?
I guess this is the factor. Here's a question: how would we even know which is better? How can we measure which is a better way to go? Is there any way?
Maybe you should have asked that before you claimed, okay, but the embarrassment episode is objectively better than these topicless episodes.
I mean, that's how I feel, and I stand by it. But how would we know? What metric can be used to judge?
Great question.
Doesn't exist.
Great question.
Viewer response, mostly.
Yeah.
I feel like the only metric we have, or at least that I've been familiar with, is what seems to be the growing sentiment of, I don't know, uninterest with what we've been talking about. And I'm not saying that's everybody, but it's some. And it seems, to me, to come from, like, that seems like a beast.
Who's uninterested?
I mean, consider all remember Munchie's thing way back in the day, like that document he put together with like the Golden Child Foundry people or whatever? Like those were the original people, and I'm aware many of those people would fade away anyway. But there seemed to be a spirit there of there's not much being said of interest now that's pulling me back into the show. And to me, that seems like that might have been before topics even went away. But I think that they're all involved in the same thing.
What did they want?
I
remember this document. I don't really remember the details.
It was just because
it was like a manifesto.
It was a manifesto of discontent with how the podcast had been run after the first, I think, like 70 to 100 episodes, like the quote unquote good ones.
And don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure that like the contention at that point was that like we were doing bad topics. I'm not interested in bad topics, but like I guess my ideal would be I would love to have a theme of a topic, at least for myself, that I could use. And I do think it is useful to have everybody kind of organized around one thing to bring out stuff they otherwise would not necessarily have thought of. But I have no objection to discussing anything of relevance or interesting things that happen to people, you know, at some time where they want to talk about. But an organizing factor, I mean, maybe to nobody else, but to me, I think would be useful. I would like to have it if it was, you know, zero effort. But is it worth it? I mean, that's the real question, I suppose.
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, like it comes back to the question we've always asked internally for years now, is like, what is the goal of the PCP and what is it going to do? You know, do we want it to grow, or do you want it to sustain, or we want to not give a fuck one way or the other? Because the channel isn't growing, not really. I mean, we got 1,000 subs in the last week because we got new lectures out, which is great. We're back over 20K.
Right, that's
but
nice.
We've been at 20K for what, like a year and a half or more. So
yeah,
there's not, views on episodes are pretty much the same. There's no growth there. Channel subs are the same. There's no growth there. So like we've peaked, like we've plateaued.
Here's what I think the lesson from that is that the podcast itself is not the vehicle that grows the channel.
Sure.
Because like whether we like it or not, the podcast is personality driven. We are not like a news podcast. We are not like it's a personality-driven podcast, whether we wish it were otherwise or not. So like we might as well just embrace that and like set like pre-decided topics are just like going against the grain of that, in my opinion.
Well,
they're just denying the reality.
I agree.
They're just a canvas upon which to draw stuff out. Okay, but whatever. Go
I mean,
on, Tom, go on.
another thing you can do potentially to kind of get the best of both worlds is we could just start uploading things to the channel that are more structured in addition to the weekly podcast. If anybody sees something,
yeah,
to
that's
do
always
so.
been
like
my
the lectures get attention. The lecture, like your lecture in particular, has it's gotten like 500 subs or something, or maybe not that many. It's gotten a few hundred subs to the channel just
Probably.
From that lecture alone.
Since the
Clearly.
Animorphs and the Versco lecture went up, the channel's gotten 1,100 new subs.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
So-
yeah, pretty clear correlate.
it's not the podcast.
Well, guys,
that
look, let's
people
not
find
get
us
quite
through.
off topic here, because I agree. I mean, I basically agree that like the podcast itself, there are things we can do to optimize attention to the channel and stuff. I'm kind of with Ben. Like, and also Tom, if we want to do something to grow the channel, I think it basically needs to be something that is not the PCP as it exists now. As we've said, either we change the podcast in some way, or we make a new show, and like, whatever, keep doing RadCon
I mean,
stuff
that's
to get
actually
more
a good
attention
point
to the
to
channel.
bring up too, because I know in addition to like people talking
Sure.
about like, oh, the podcast is bleh and whatever, there was some people who were surprised that content wasn't on the PCP, and I understand why, because like I was in the chat when it was being conceptualized and whatnot.
yeah.
That's like a Digi and Nate show primarily, but
When Nate impregnated Digi
yeah, it
with
was
the idea.
it was
glorious.
graphic,
Yeah.
and I can't ever unsee it, unfortunately. But
Indeed.
I think something to that vein, maybe not like a show like content, but I feel like if we want to grow the channel and in essence grow the Patreon, because that's how, the rising tide will raise all of our ships. There needs to be something more accessible. Like the PCP has a really shitty content funnel right now.
Hey, PCP
highlights are a good thing to do, absolutely.
PCP
That's a good
highlights
idea.
are good. That's
Hey,
a great,
everybody go watch the fucking highlights. Subscribe to
That's
the
a
channel.
good new thing we're doing. I was
It is.
excited to see those coming out on Twitter.
Eleazar is killing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great work.
But I mean, the lectures show that there's clearly like bigger potential reach that the channel can have if you're making content outside of like, what are these weirdos doing this week?
I mean, hey, I think we all agree more RadCons faster is a good idea for all of us. At least faster than every 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that...
The lectures and the OVA and stuff, I think, is going to drive more. If like I think they're more likely to drive like audience growth
it's
than any
interesting-
number of podcast episodes.
I mean, that's true. It's funny though, because like I was kind of hoping / expecting, and maybe that was foolish, for the RadCon 3 Arena IRL video to get more attention, but it really, it didn't take off as I hoped.
I feel like that is
Is that too niche a thing, too weird a concept?
It's not that it's too niche. It's that it's not unedited, but do you know what I mean? It's like
It is
it's like
7 footage things playing on a screen, and you're
it's
kind of
it's very
hard
niche.
to- yeah.
Again, what's the appeal of that to someone who is not invested in
I
the
mean,
podcast?
that video could
I
have done
guess
really well if
yeah.
we had, instead of having all the cameras on, if we had taken the time to edit between shots and like create a continual narrative, and then
Yeah.
the title would have had to be in all caps.
You're right,
First
you're
person
right.
shooter in real life! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! It would have to be something like that.
I think
That's
you're
how
right.
it would have
I think
gotten
you're right.
mainstream appeal.
Maybe it's not too late. Maybe
I
we
mean,
can
it's
re-edit that
definitely
sometime.
doable.
I don't know, but
we could.
yeah,
Huh.
time or effort. That's a
That's
pretty
interesting.
decent idea. I would be fascinated to see theoretically if we made that, like how much the response differed. I mean, I imagine it'd be much more successful, but it's interesting. Now the OVA though, I will be totally stoked to see how it does, because that is a narrative. It's got like wacky, kooky shit. We got to title it something smart. That one, I think, that project from start to finish has actual potential for success and widespread appeal.
more so than the podcast itself, definitely. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about this over and over again, and my position has been that the podcast itself is not really. It's just the thing that we do that like sort of underpins all the other stuff. Like, it's not.
I agree.
It's not a driver for anything. It just
The
is
big
what
the
it
big
is.
problem is that the podcast is secondary content in the spotlight, and we have no primary. Our primary
Yeah.
content comes out once every 2 years.
But I don't see any way to change that via the podcast itself. Like I don't think it's a useful venture to go tinkering with.
I mean,
Well,
what?
okay. I'm not
like it
I'm not
originally,
against
though.
like new ideas or anything. I'm not like if someone had an idea for like segments, then like
Segments
I'd
could
be
one
fine
thing,
with like
but I
adding
think
segments
instead of
or
burying stuff that we do, like Steve Universe, in an episode of the PCP, we should just do supplemental things where we're talking about these things when the iron is hot. You know, as opposed to waiting till next week to talk about Steven Universe, we should have just been like, all right, let's do a Steven Universe special thing the day after the finale airs. And then,
you know what?
unnumbered.
I agree.
And
I
that would
actually
draw
agree
new
with
people.
that.
And then it's like, if you liked our random retardedness, here's 200 episodes of watching this entire thing grow and develop.
Like a PCP special episode or something. That's like
I wouldn't
specifically
even
we talk
brand it
about
as
this
anything
thing.
procrastinators related. Like, you would just kind of find out in the
It doesn't
beginning
need
or
to
the
be.
end of like a
Yeah,
bumper
okay.
that is
Channel
part
is
of a
enough.
podcast. Just for SEO's sake, like just having it be, oh, it's a Steven Universe video and I am obsessed. And that's how you get into it.
Well,
Nothing wrong with that idea.
in
of course.
theory, I agree with you. But in practice, we can't even get our shit together. How long have we been talking about doing the Gunbuster Diebuster episode?
Yeah.
Months? And we can't fucking do it.
It's a lack.
Nobody does
It's a
it.
lack of leadership, I would say, because there is no one to say like we're doing it this day, have watched it or not. I mean, you know, one of us could say that, and the rest of us would probably agree to it generally, but
Yeah.
nobody has. So it just, you know, the idea
So,
drifts along.
if we had like special episodes, like we could have done one when like the PS5 announcement happened. That was a total shit show. You know, we could do one when Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out and do something about that, because I'm sure everyone's gonna have a lot of things to say. So it's just like, instead of bundling like the pop culture stuff into episodes, just break them out, have them be standalone things, and let that be the top of the PCP funnel that brings in the normies, and they slowly get filtered out as they go down the rabbit hole.
I think this is a good idea. I just we would have to get in the habit, I guess, of like being ready
Yeah.
to record an episode at the drop of a hat.
I don't think that's impossible, you know?
I don't
Especially
think it's
if
impossible.
we can like
I feel like turnout would
we
be
could-
the issue. Well, I mean, if something's interesting, if something genuinely interesting happens, we should be talking
sure.
about it
and
anyway.
there's no reason why
And then it's just a matter of being like, okay, let's jump
we
in the
can't
call
be
and
like
record
during
this.
a meeting or something, hey, is there anything cool happening this month that we should maybe plan to have something to say about when it drops?
That's what I mean. That's what the topic. That's what like the predetermined topics is to me. It's like, okay, let's just pick something and talk about it, and like whether it's
Well,
interesting
I would
or
say
not.
instead of having to do that every week, just like once a month, look at what's coming out that month and see if there's anything interesting that we should keep our
Yeah.
eyes on. Because maybe it'll come out and we won't care. But like, you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out next month, and I'm sure you both have a lot to say about that.
I'm not gonna play it.
You could talk about that, but like the thing is,
Sure.
like, it will be popular. It will be something that is being talked about, and that is a potential avenue to bring in new eyeballs.
No, I
Hmm.
am 100% in favor of using whatever means we have at our disposal to improve outreach. So yes, I like it. That's a proactive thing to do.
You know, not to be a bummer on this front, because these are decent ideas. But when I hear this discussion, I mean, I myself, there's an issue of like my priority will be working on like, I mean, I'm going to make a Final Fantasy VII video, so like I am not overly concerned with the PCP and like its answer on you know.
This
the
is
Final Fantasy VII
entirely why
remake.
we haven't done this yet, because anybody who has a legitimate thought
Right, you're
about
right.
something outside the PCP wants to just hoard it for themselves.
We call it hoarding, but I mean, I got a fucking channel.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
I'm
I
not
get the
saying
point.
that in
I
terms
get
of
the
like
point. Yeah.
a malicious hoarding, just like you want to keep your.
I mean,
ideas.
why couldn't
I
we
mean, there
do
is no
both?
reason why you
Why
can't.
couldn't
I mean,
we do?
we can
why
and we
couldn't
would,
Nate,
and I.
you make a video about the remake and then also we record
I mean,
an
think about
episode
it this
where we
way.
discuss it?
I mean, that's effectively what we do already, just on
You
the
could
on the
do
weekly shows.
you could do
I
a video
will
on Final
do that.
Fantasy VII Remake and then plug it on the thing we do for the PCP, and so.
I guess here's my real point about that. It's like, okay, who's actually organizing these, and you know what's like the, because I mean, it seems to me like, who are the people who organize things generally? Me, Tom, Gibbs sometimes, Munchie sometimes, but not a lot. Other than that, not a lot seems to get changed for the most part. And like my priorities are elsewhere. The PCP is clearly a secondary tier in terms of how I'm spending my time. So practically speaking, it makes me wonder how these things would be settled. Your monthly meeting idea to decide, not a terrible idea. But who's going to organize it? Who's going to edit? I mean, Eleazar could, I suppose. But now we're talking about changing the budget. All these things could be done.
That's like a non-issue. Like we would just pay for it like a regular episode, and we would pay Eleazar to edit it like a regular episode.
Okay, well, here's the question. Do I even want that? Do I want to pay more money out of our paycheck to Eleazar to spend more time?
For him to make us more content? Yeah, it's fine. We pay him to provide a service to create content for us, and he does, and it is to our benefit. We just have
to do a trial run.
Bro, there is a net amount of money coming in. If more videos are being made, but more money is coming in, that's a loss of money.
How much do we? There's the amount you're talking about bleeding out to pay Eleazar is like nothing.
Look, it's not just the money. It's also like the time investment and whatnot to do like these dedicated things in addition to the podcast. Unless we're talking about totally changing everything about how it works. These are legitimate business concerns.
You would have to do it on a trial basis.
If you don't want to be on a fucking episode, then just don't fucking be on it.
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, you're the one proposing changes. You gotta win people over to make a change.
Well, here's an idea. What if we do it, and you can just sit out if you want to sit out? No problem.
Okay, here's the thing. You won't. That's the thing.
I mean, maybe not. If nobody else is into it. If we were all in agreement that we should do a thing, then we would do it.
Obtain the consensus. That's my challenge. You won't do it. You won't.
Okay, you're not giving it to me.
Well, I mean, I have some concerns. I'm not even saying I disagree.
You're sitting here saying, no, that'll never work. And
no, that's not what I'm saying at all.
And to make it not work, and to make it not
put in the effort
to make it not work, I'm
happen.
deliberately not cooperating with it to cause that result.
I'm not even saying that. I'm not even saying that.
No? Okay.
If something
I have some concerns about what format is best
together, would you want to be on it or not?
I mean, it depends on the thing. Depends on the specifics.
Let's say me and Ben.
What if, for example,
decide next week that we want to do one of these episodes, and we're going to pay Eleazar to edit it? Are you going to be upset about that if you're not on the episode, or do we have?
Am I going to be? I mean.
Well, I don't know. I'm just this is a theoretical.
What's
the theoretical
project
hypothetical situation I'm proposing right now? It's like if.
I mean, I wouldn't understand why we would do that instead of just having it on the normal PCP episode, and then you title the PCP episode that thing, and then make a highlight of it.
We've explained why. We've been talking about why.
While you're having that discussion, I was thinking that I'm not really sure that's a much better idea than just having an episode where we discuss that among other things.
Let's say
and then if it's so good, make a highlight of it.
Let's say you're a random person who has never watched any of our content before. Are you going to sit down and watch a 3-hour podcast that has maybe 20 minutes of the topic that's in the title among like 3 or 4
episodes
other things?
Barely break 2 hours these days, so it's more like a
2 hours,
like an hour and a half to
2 hours. Or are you going to watch a specific 20 to 40 minute discussion that is exactly on just the thing you wanted to hear about and are interested in the first place?
Well, this is why the highlights exist, to do this exact thing.
But highlights aren't the same.
Yes, they are. That's exactly what they are. They're that discussion of the thing, just from within the full episode.
But again, this is the same argument you were saying about topics, is that the difference is intent. Instead of it happening by accident, you can plan in advance doing things that you're actually interested in and are also good for helping grow the channel.
Well,
you're arguing on the other side now.
No, I'm not. Have a topic episode about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and then if you also want to have like a highlight, go for it. If not,
we never did we actually stay on topic for a whole topic episode. That never happened.
Do we have to.
Well,
Tom is talking about making a piece of content that is specifically devoted to a thing. If we take the podcast, which is like the thing that we all do, it's personality driven, it's our regular podcast that we put out on a regular basis, and we turn that into pick a topic, then we are forced to combine these two things. This drive to have like, oh, a specific like searchable, clickable piece of content about culturally relevant things that are hot topics right now, and our podcast that all us friends do together. We have to make those the same thing, and it's serving two masters.
Well, I think Nate,
it doesn't work for either purpose.
I think Nate's point is to take the discussion that happens, clip it, and make it a short little segment on the PCP Highlights channel, because then we don't have to pay Eleazar for it because he's doing that for free.
If that were to happen,
he's not doing it for free. He's getting paid for that.
If that were to happen,
not much.
It would be fine. If, say, on an episode we had like a really pointed discussion about the Final Fantasy remake or whatever, I would say, yeah, sure. Clip that piece, release it as a separate issue, title it fittingly. Okay. But like that's not guaranteed to happen.
Right.
Well, it would be if you decide the topic ahead of time, which is exactly what you guys are proposing anyway.
So why is one good and one bad?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you just want to make extra episodes of the show about specific things. I'm not sure why that's necessary.
Because
why spend extra time when you can just do it within the episodes that already exist?
Because the episodes that exist aren't as able to draw in new viewers as a dedicated video. And the highlights channel,
that's why I would have
the highlights channel is good for that, but the highlights channel does also pose two issues. The first issue is that by having a conversation that happens by accident as opposed to intentionally, it might not be as good.
It doesn't have to be by accident, though. This can be discussed ahead of time.
You're also putting another degree of separation between the content and the eventual end goal of where you want them to be, which is to be on the main PCB channel and
to
give us money.
It's like, you're right. It's a difference of intent. I think it makes sense to, like, what we're talking about is like content or topic driven pieces of like individual discussion podcasts or whatever, whereas the podcast itself is personality driven. It just is. And so like you can't just it's not guaranteed to work. It's not like necessarily going to work to just like put one in the context of the other. Necessarily. If it does happen, then fine.
Yeah,
but like
okay.
But if I don't know. I just think it's reasonable to.
Okay, well,
it just makes so much sense. Like, oh, Final Fantasy, the remake comes out, or there's something happening in the media, and we're all like thinking about it. We want to talk about it. Hey, why not convene to do a little topic-specific discussion about it?
I think they both can work. Another problem that comes from the highlight part is that, let's say Final Fantasy VII Remake drops on like a Tuesday, and then we talk about it on that Friday, and then we have to wait till next week for it to come out, and then we have to wait for Eleazar to clip it and get it on the highlights channel. So we're like 2 or 3 weeks removed from when the event actually is. Where if we do a dedicated video,
but like, what's the
immediately.
comparison though? Like, how fast is Eleazar ready to do this, and how fast can everybody play the remake? I mean, I still think there are logistical questions. Sure, is it slower? Probably yes, but to what degree?
I mean, 2 or 3 weeks is a big deal. If it's a hot.
It's not going to be 3 weeks.
It could. Well, there's already a week long delay of the episode takes a week to come out. So anything we say is a week old anyway.
I'd say at most 2 weeks, right?
And
I mean, okay, look, 2 weeks is a long time.
That is a long
I'm aware
time.
of that.
And that's my point. That's all I'm saying. Is there's a 2 week difference.
Okay, is the vision here the PCP remains and these things exist?
That was the original idea.
I don't think they would be like super regular.
No.
I think they would probably be an occasional thing.
They would have to be things we're actually personally interested in, because if we just start shilling popular things that nobody cares about, that's just as bad as doing Monsters, if not worse, because now it's being done for shitty greed reason as opposed to just blatant desperation.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know. It sounds like there's not a ton of distinction. I understand you're saying like you want a pointed video about a specific thing. I don't see a huge difference between that and like this is exactly what Ben was talking about. If there's a thing that we all know we want to talk about, then we will do so in the episode. And I mean, if they're passionate about it, there will probably be a pretty clean way to cut it out.
Look,
if it is the thing being discussed.
I don't understand why you're so resistant to this, since we've literally done this before. This is not even like a new concept.
For example, the Dark Souls 3 PCP episode. We talked about Dark Souls 3 for an hour. It was great.
I'm not talking about the PCP. I'm talking about like, I don't know, you guys did that one where you reviewed Mumkey's book or whatever.
And we didn't get paid for it.
What? Okay, I'm fine. It would be fine if we want to work out like a different pay scheme for like these things that we're talking about that works differently from a regular episode.
Okay.
I'm open to that discussion or whatever. So, okay, granted.
Okay. I don't know. I guess I just don't see that much of a difference. I guess I see your point.
Well, the difference is we're here saying, "Hey, we could do this thing on the channel," and you're saying no.
Is that what I said, Ben? Is that what I forbid it? I use my executive authority.
You're saying we shouldn't do it.
I didn't even say that. I'm just asking if it's actually a practical model or if it is actually
Well, you're asking
necessary.
in the context of, but here's all the things I think are wrong with it, and it won't work.
About changing it. Oh, no, what a fucking asshole! Why would he shut down my brilliant idea that I just came up with now, and I haven't asked anybody except the people here?
Yeah.
It might just not.
It feels like you're trying to shut it down, and I don't know. why.
Now I'm just mocking you, but that's a personal thing. That's not about the idea.
Yes, obviously, Nate. You're very You really got one over on me. I totally didn't pick up on that.
Well, this is how business meetings go, everybody. This is pretty much how it goes down.
Is that we have a small, dedicated audience that is privy to this entire discussion, so they can feel free to weigh in the comments if they think this is a retarded idea or not. Because at the end of the day, it's these people who we're trying to appeal to, them and their peers who aren't yet giving us money.
But these are the people who already got. Isn't it more important to get the people who have not yet been got?
These are also a sample of people who would potentially be able to got. So their opinion is relevant, if not the ideal sampling.
Sure. Well, I mean, going back to the original thought, beyond all of the various business suggestions here, I remain at the position. I think having an organizing topic around which a normal episode of the PCP exists or serves the purpose of drawing out more entertaining discussion.
Do you not remember that, like, for the first whole year or more that the podcast existed, that's what we did, and we all decided this is bad, we should stop?
Do you not remember how we ran out of topics, but there were good ones initially? But it's been over a year since then.
I'm here saying, yeah, we can do a topic if we all agree on, if there's one that we all want to do.
I don't even have any hope this will happen because it takes organization and none will be input. By me as well.
You don't think
fully
what
aware
will
of that.
happen?
Huh?
You don't think what will happen?
I mean, topics will not come back because it takes effort to organize and that won't be done. Which is fine.
I mean, it doesn't take that much. I mean, all it would take is, like, before an episode, like, you just say in the chat, you add everyone's like, hey, what if we talked about this time? And everyone can go, yeah, I want to talk about that. Or, no, I'm not interested in that.
Well, my premise was that it's better to give
you just bring it up on the episode and then we
it.
talk about it if we have anything to say.
This is our difference. You think that people can come up with ideas like immediately, and sure, to a degree. I just think that it's more useful.
Do.
I mean, you guys are arguing personal difference right now. If Ben is good at talking, just off from the seat of his pants, that's fine. Nate, if you need time to prep, that's fine too. That's not a problem with the podcast. That's just you have different prep styles. Nate needs to prep. Ben can
I would argue that Ben thinks that the time makes no difference, but it actually does for everyone, including him. So, I mean, that's my contention.
Maybe Ben would be better on the show if he prepped beforehand, but he still obviously does well without it.
We'll never know. We'll never know because I've never done it, and barring some, like, very specific circumstance, I never will.
And I'm not talking about sitting down and like writing a script. I'm talking about having the theme in one's mind to, oh yeah, I should talk about this.
I can get the theme in my mind just from seeing someone say the theme and thinking, do I want to talk about that? Yes, no.
You're right, Ben. No one ever needed time to think about anything. It just
yes,
was
that's exactly
there.
what I said. Another good faith argument from Nate Bestman.
That's exactly what your point was.
Another steel man from Nate Bestman.
Yeah, Ben, the king of steel men, has been giving me plenty this whole time. There's been zero straw in his eye or mine, and it's been wonderful. Ben, what was your point then? You were just saying you don't need prep time. I said, Ben says he doesn't need prep time. Where's the issue? What's wrong with that?
That's not what happened. Yes, I don't need prep time. I don't use prep time. It doesn't do anything for me. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. So what else do we have to say? Is there anything else to be said about any of this?
People, if you're ever wondering why the
Here's what
PCP is the way it is, this is why. This is just another phase in a multi-year long conversation we've had that gets basically nowhere. The PCP is going to be what it is forever. And maybe someday one of us will rise above to do something of actual value. But until then, we're just going to keep jerking our dicks and going nowhere.
You're missing the forest for the trees. The PCP itself is just what it is. The PCP itself is not a driver.
I mean the channel,
clicks.
not the podcast. The podcast will be what it is, but the channel, it could be more, as we see every couple years at RadCon.
Well, here's my suggestion, and we did this to a certain, was it you, Tom, that proposed Gunbuster Diebuster? That was a good idea. I'm still down to do it. Yes, Nate, you are correct. We are unorganized. We do need more, I don't know, more of a drive or a collective will or something to get us to...
If only we paid somebody to be an administrator that could get us all in line. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, sure.
Are you now giving me authority to decide what the PCB should do? I'll take it.
No.
But that's never been the contention.
We should organize a vote. We should be like, hey, at everyone, like by this time tonight, like vote on when you want to do or weigh in on when you want to do Gunbuster Diebuster, and if you don't vote, then you're out or whatever.
The issue though is just...
that's a great example of something that we all were like, hey, we should do this thing, and then we all just never followed through on it. But, like, the idea there is a good one that we all wanted to do, and I think that we should do that kind of thing, and we should be willing to organize ourselves and, commit to doing it, and then execute on that.
If there had been someone in the chat who just said, like, this is the time, we're going to do it this week, watch Gunbuster Diebuster, this is what we'll be discussing, that would have been fine. The question is, long term, there is no one who does that because we don't want to do it. It's
the week
work
it was
and it's
brought up
effort.
to do it as a topic. I watched all of Gunbuster and Diebuster up until like an hour before the podcast. I thought we were doing it that week.
But there was no agreement that it would be discussed. That was never there.
I assumed when we said, hey, let's do an episode on Gunbuster Diebuster, the plan was, hey, let's do an episode on Gunbuster Diebuster.
Well, that's good.
I was not clear on whether we were going to do it on an episode or whether we were going to do it as like I kind of thought we were going to do it as a separate, like, dedicated the Gunbuster like a Tarantino cast, basically.
Sure.
I mean, isn't the Tarantino cast a great example of what we're talking about? We don't do the Tarantino cast in the PCP.
That's what the Tarantino cast is.
But nobody's getting paid for doing that, including me, because it's demonetized.
But I'm not fine. If we talked about it and we all were like, hey, these are things we don't get paid for, I mean, I would kind of be like, that seems a little weird. But, like, if that's what we all agreed on, I wouldn't even question. I'd be like, okay, fine. Maybe sometimes we just want to make a video where we talk about Quentin Tarantino or Gunbuster Diebuster or the Final Fantasy VII thing or whatever.
The entire point
Sure.
of doing these other projects, whether they're highlights or whatever, is that we want to grow the channel, which in effect grows our ad revenue, which also in effect grows our Patreon, hopefully. So that's the goal of doing these things. Mm-hmm. So even if you say, okay, in the beginning we're not getting paid because we're testing it out, if the Patreon grows and the ad revenue goes up and the videos do well, we've gotten paid. Yeah, and then we can reassess, and like 3 or 4 months of doing a couple here and there and be like, okay, are these working or are they not? If they're not, we trash them. If they are, we work them into the monetization strategy we have because they're working.
Makes sense to me. Oh fuck, shit. If we, I mean, yeah, we all benefit. I don't know. I've always conceived of the PCP. I said this on an episode as like an amoeba. We're like a blob, we're a blob of reach, right? And we have, you know, how many of us are there? 6, 7? I don't know. There's
7,
like
8, 6.
Of nuclei. We have 7 nuclei. Then we're all sort of collectively trying to like move around our big globulous amoeba that we all have come together to form to try and like gain as much territory for the collective as possible. We are the Devu collective.
Right.
So I am fine. I mean, hell, if we should. Maybe we resolve, like, after we finish recording this, we at everyone in the chat and we're like, hey, let's set a fucking date for the Gunbuster Diebuster cast.
Sure. Sure.
And we can do that kind of thing. I think that is the policy, right? The policy is that like extra videos don't get paid. We can just continue that if in the future they're successful and like they grow the channel and they work and like people start doing them more often and they're like, hey, we sure are producing a lot of this extra content, not getting paid for it. Then we can like have a meeting, renegotiate at a later time.
I mean, how have the Ghibli cast and Tarantino cast been doing?
One of the Ghibli casts is the most viewed video on our channel.
I think that says all that needs to be said. That the potential, if nothing else, is there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah.
So the most viewed video on the channel was unpaid.
I guess so.
Well, maybe that says a lot. Maybe there's something to be learned from that.
Perhaps there is. Though, I mean, for me, I would want to have a discussion about... Basically, I mean, I would want to pay people who are doing things that are helping the channel in some way. So, I mean, yeah, you know, I suppose, you know, for like a video or two. Look, I've done 1 million free podcasts my entire fucking life. I can do more. But I always want to have my time compensated if possible. So, I don't know. I'm happy to work it into the structure in some way. And it doesn't have to be immediate or whatever. But I would like the incentive to be there, I guess, is my main point when it comes to this topic in particular.
Nate, weren't you the one before who was like, oh, but what? So we just have to pay whenever anyone uploads one of these things? Weren't you arguing against that?
I'm not ignorant to the fact that right now, like if there's one that I'm not on, I will then make less money. I hope it grows, but you know, it's not a sure thing. So could I perhaps want to do it?
So do you want them to be paid or not?
Oh my God, it's almost like this is like a multifaceted issue, and you have to like weigh the pros and cons.
What's your position?
I don't know. I got to think about it. Jesus.
All right. I said
I suspect that it won't be worth it.
The policy now is that these things would not be paid, and we can renegotiate it in the future if we feel like this is a thing that we're doing more and more of, and it's all coming as unpaid labor, and we don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can change the policy in the future.
That's true.
Unless you want to hold a meeting now and decide that no, we should start paying for this kind of thing, in which case, be my guest.
I feel no strong need.
Hold a vote on it or whatever. Okay. Maybe we talk about this at Saturday's meeting or just at some point in the future when it becomes more relevant.
I guess I'll bring up, because this is the issue, I guess this is the other nagging thought in my head is, you know, okay, maybe that would work. Maybe that would be a successful video. It's worth looking into. Okay, the competing interest in my head is, why not package that plan into the PCP? And I'm aware of the difference. I'm just saying because right now that's part of an existing structure, and like it could be highlight clipped. These things could be done. People would get paid for the time, and it would make that PCP episode better, I'm sure, because effort was put into it. I'm just saying this is a competing interest that I think of when I think of.
I guess maybe just to understand your perspective better, why wasn't the Tarantino cast rolled into a PCP
Well,
episode?
I mean, because that was filmed. Oh, okay. Well, the original Tarantino cast was a Best Guy Ever production. It wasn't like a PCP thing. I just asked you guys to be part of it, and we agreed like to pay you guys the ad revenue. Which, by the way, I got to divvy up that $12 that video made to you guys.
Oh, I can't wait.
We'll get to that soon.
We can't just roll everything we want to do on the channel into the main episodes. That's so restrictive.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to, but there is a logic to it because the PCP is whatever we want it to be. So if you want to talk about Gunbuster and Diebuster, not a terrible place to do it.
I mean, I think the problem is, I mean, just to kind of restate, to recap, is that if you're doing something topical at the time in the the zeitgeist or whatever,
Yeah.
you're losing a couple weeks in the editing process.
Well, Gunbuster and Diebuster is not one. Okay, but
I mean,
Right,
I mean,
but if you're not-
like something like the Ghibli cast, like they'll record it and Digi will like edit it and have it on the fucking channel like in an hour.
True. That's his style.
We also
For
have
stuff-
this capability.
For stuff that isn't topically relevant and it's just kind of interesting, I think it's a good way of making the channel itself approachable for people who don't want to sift through 204 episodes and trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. By
Yeah.
even having like the difference between Gunbuster and Diebuster discussion and Gunbuster and Diebuster discussion Pro Crastinators podcast episode 206 or whatever. That's a big difference for someone who's never been there before.
And also potentially a PCB highlight that is PCB discusses best anime ever, or whatever.
But nobody
I don't thi-
cares about the PCP. This new person doesn't know what the PCP is. They're
Then
like,
just
why is
call
a
it
drug
best
talking
anime
about?
ever discussed. Thumbnail of Noriko and
That
and
would be
no,
that's like,
whatever.
Why would you name it after your channel?
I'm not saying you would. Well,
You said
okay,
best
I
anime.
didn't intend that to be a best guy ever themed thing. I just
Okay. Okay, fine. I don't know. Like, I agree that is a thing we could do, but I don't think that like podcast highlights will ever fully fill this niche that we're talking about.
Okay,
I think
I get
highlights
that. I get
work.
that.
Highlights work really well, I think. And again,
It's a new
maybe
format.
I'm wrong,
I'm aware of that.
but like the highlights, I think they work so well for like Joe Rogan and stuff because like Joe Rogan is a known entity. Like when you see Joe Rogan talks about this, it's like, oh, I know who Joe Rogan is, and I want to see this.
Yeah.
No, we're not at that scale. So I think
Yeah.
having a content first approach would make more sense for someone of our size.
Well, the highlights are definitely structured to be like to lead with the topic of the discussion and to be the thing that grabs the attention of the viewers. And then the fact that that's how it is for me because I've watched way more podcast clips than I have actually podcasts because I care about X topic or whatever. Okay, but whatever. Don't want to get lost in the weeds.
I think it's fine to say like if we talk about Final Fantasy Remake and we end up discussing it on the show and we make a highlight and we call it Final Fantasy Remake ruined my childhood and gave me hepatitis C.
Yeah.
And dash the Pro Crastinators podcast highlights. Mm-hmm. That's perfectly good. Mm-hmm. That's great. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to be doing. We should make those.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to be doing a lot more. So even if we do this plan and we start making like dedicated episodes about stuff as a replacement, addition, whatever. Highlights are still a very valuable thing. Even no matter what.
Here's what I want to do. I want like after this, let's add everyone and say let's decide when to do the Gunbuster Diebuster. I want to do it as a separate episode.
Okay.
Doesn't need to be paid. Because we haven't managed to coordinate actually getting it. Because the thing about if you do a topic episode on like about something like that, then you have like one of two things you run up against. Like one, like you can't guarantee that everyone is going to either be interested in the topic or have done like the necessary reading or watching beforehand. So
not the way it's set up now. That's true.
So you get to the day and either you have people on the episode who are not interested in discussing it, or you have people that would have wanted to be on the episode that week, but they're like, well, I guess I better sit this one out because I have nothing
That's
to contribute.
True. The financial thing does make it difficult.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times with topic episodes where I didn't have a ton to say, but I wanted the money and I would try and figure out something to say. And I'm sure we've all done that at one point or another. So
yeah, not
isn't
as
that
bad
what we
as
do
you,
now
but I've done
anyway?
it.
yeah, sure.
I would argue that's not too different from what happens now, but no, whatever.
But okay, but
The difference is that now there's no, you're going in with no expectations.
I guess
being prepped on anything.
I guess this is based on how our pay structure is set up. Right now, you get paid just from being on an episode. So if you have the time and you can spare it, like everybody except Digi, because Digi doesn't care. It's peanuts to him. But for the rest of us, like we want to be on the episode.
Then again, look at Munchie before this episode. I don't have an explanation for that.
Okay, you know what? Let's return to that.
Okay.
Sure. I want to talk more about that.
It's a fascinating concept.
Yes. Let's put a pin in that. But anyway, what I was saying is like everybody wants to be on the weekly episodes for the money, right? Because this is how we make
at least the four core of us, absolutely.
Yeah. And so for that reason, I think it makes sense to have separate shows that are not tied in with that pay structure. And I guess it's just kind of a consequence of how we've worked out how pay gets divvied out. I think it's the way that we have it now is good. It works. The regular episodes are just a personality driven.
Hey,
we all show up and we talk about whatever's going on in our lives or whatever we happen to be thinking about at the moment.
I don't think I would ever object.
And it's not. There's no like barriers to entry.
Now that I've had a moment to think about it, I've been thinking about the history of the PCP, and it occurs to me things like the Drawcast and the fucking the game, whatever, the PCP races, like those. I mean, well, okay, the Drawcast has moved to the Quick Draw. But the games one, like, still exists on the books, I believe, as, like, if someone produces an episode, that would be a paid episode. And I'm thinking to myself, like...
Is it? Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't done one for, like, over a year. Probably, like, 2 years now.
I feel like we have, like, reconsidered our pay structures multiple times since the last... Like race came out.
Okay, that's probably true, but I'll at least personally, I feel that would be fair to pay like an episode's worth because it's effort and it seems like good content for the channel. Maybe we don't all agree on that. Okay, doesn't matter. But thinking back on that, like if I'm seeing people making a video for the PCP that they have worked on and like are doing a dedicated discussion, I would even like going back on it. I mean, I would vote to pay like the members of the PCP like a share for doing, for example, that Mumkey video or that Mumkey book review. I'm not saying they have to, but like I would lean towards that. And if you guys, for example, wanted to do one on Diebuster, Gunbuster, even if I didn't want to be a part of it, like I still benefit because it's on the channel and it's growing and it's getting dedicated content. So, like, does that seem like a bad idea? Okay, maybe I would lose some money. Okay, perhaps. But it doesn't seem like a big negative. It seems like a positive.
I am ambivalent. Right? I think it would be fine. I think it would be fine to do that unless, like, people started...
I don't want people spamming. That would be like an issue.
Gaming, like just like spamming it with lots of like secondary content that sucks up all our monthly revenue or whatever.
Right. Something. I
don't really see that happening.
Yeah, maybe we could do something like, okay. I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas.
We could always just go on a case. We could always just do like a case by case basis of like, hey, these guys made this episode. Guys, let's vote on whether we pay them. Like, should this count as paid content?
Yeah. I mean, that could be done. There should be no, I mean, okay, whatever. We're talking about, we're in the weeds, but like, I wouldn't want there to be any assumptions. Like, what if somebody makes a video and there's like 3 people on it and they're like, oh yeah, we really think this should be paid. And then they get downvoted and then like, oh man, I'm real upset. Whatever. These things could happen, but hopefully we could work it out, pay them half or something. I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
At the moment, like I said, I'm fine with proceeding under the assumption that it's just extra,
right?
Not paid unless we decide otherwise. Okay, so let's talk about Munchie. What a fucking bitch.
He's not a bitch. I mean, it was just he before the episode he was like, I don't think I have anything to say about topics, even though he was in the call, and which I assume meant he was interested. Didn't we decide topics was the topic, and he said, I want to be on that.
He did.
And then
was that him? Then he
Yeah. Well, I guess he changed his mind. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let me
let's deep dive. Let's roast Munchie.
I feel maybe that was before
I
Wait.
think.
Digi said, "Have we ever done topics?"
Yeah.
And Munchie said, "I'll be on that."
I bet
And this
Digi's
was
gonna
yes-
be mad he missed this. Lol, fuck you.
Well, I mean,
He didn't say anything in the chat, so fuck him.
and then he came in. He was in the call at 5:05 or whatever. He was at 5:00, and then which is when we agreed we were going to record this. And then, why did he decide he didn't want to be on it?
He said like, well, he didn't really give an explanation. I think he said I don't have much to say, but I guess he just changed his mind because that's counter to what he had said before.
He was like, does anyone actually have anything to say about this topic? Like, does anyone
you know
have...
what? This is an interesting example actually, because I'll tell you what I suspect the issue is.
This is what I do. I'm so
It's
smart,
shocking,
guys.
right? It's surprising.
I can just show up. I just show like I'll think of something, like whatever it is, like unless it's something that I like. If the topic was like, on the recent episode, you guys started talking about the new Doom. I have no opinion about the new Doom. I haven't played it. I'm not going to. I just clammed up. I didn't say anything.
Sure.
I let the topic. If I showed up to an episode and that was the topic, I might be like, I'll check out.
I think here's the difference, man.
If it's something like this, I can go off the top of my head.
You and I
It's
are the
not
same.
hard.
I Munchie can too. Munchie's good at that. I think.
That's what I said. I was like, Munchie, you can't just you can't talk. You just think of shit to say about a thing like this for an hour. I know he could have.
Here's the difference, though. I think Munchie does not get the kind of. Like, first of all, I guess he doesn't really care about the money, and then also beyond that, I don't think he gets the
frustrating
same
thing.
I don't think he gets the same enjoyment that maybe you or I do of just being on the PCP, which I generally always am happy to do because it's fun and I don't know, I like it.
So I mean, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, I gotta do the PCP today. But then like when I'm doing it, like the time always goes really fast.
Yeah,
like
that's exactly how I feel. I totally
it's pretty
agree.
enjoyable.
Yeah. And when I'm calling Ben a fucking straw manning piece of shit motherfucker, it's
But
makes it all worth it.
I love to
Munchie,
laugh.
Munchie hasn't been on. I don't know why. I guess either he doesn't enjoy it or he doesn't feel like he
must
enjoys
just not
it.
enjoy it. He must just not enjoy it, guys.
Well, I mean,
save Munchie. Hashtag save Munchie.
I regularly think that I don't want to do it, but I end up enjoying it anyway.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's in that space of like, ugh, have to do the PCP. He doesn't do that final push to when you start
He doesn't
recording.
even seem like that. He just seems totally ambivalent to the podcast itself. Which
and
is
for
very
a number
weird.
of reasons, especially money, that does baffle me.
Yeah, it does baffle me. Like, I guess he's a student. He doesn't care about money. He really should, though. Like, he might think that the money doesn't matter. It does.
Well,
definitely-
we all had
really-
to learn that lesson
I
the
agree.
hard way. So
I really
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that he is sort of being kind of irresponsible. I think he's kind of screwing himself over right now. And I maybe shouldn't complain because that means I get a bigger cut, but like he's definitely not acting in his own self-interest.
I mean, I suppose I agree. Maybe he just will do other things with his time. If so, great. I kind of doubt that like this hour will
probably
be so
will.
much better used. But I mean,
I'm sure he's got things to fill his time with.
either
useful
way,
things.
I'm always glad like when there's more people on the podcast, no matter how small it just makes it more interesting, and I like to hear more people's takes and stuff. So for me, it's a downside. I mean, I get more money because there's less people in the episode, but I would take an extra interesting person like Munchie any day of the week on pretty much anything than the little extra bit of the pay, because I think it makes the podcast more interesting and exciting and gets more people to the channel, which hopefully translates to more money for everybody. So
except this
I don't think
one's
it's
for
more people
backers,
to-
so it's not
Yeah.
public facing anyway.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean.
although are you just while we're talking about Munchie, are you guys getting the comments on your lectures that are like, ugh, it's that Munchie guy again, he's back ruining yet another lecture?
I've gotten like one or two.
my current-
but I've also gotten one that was like, oh, I expected to be annoyed by Munchie this time, but he was funny.
still don't
Munchie
get
was the bane of everyone's existence in the Guilty Gear lecture, but there was
Yeah?
this new character, Purple Glasses guy, that everyone just hates in the Animorphs
Oh,
lecture.
why is that? What did
I
I even do? I don't
don't
remember.
No, I think it's because you made a bunch of comments that were misogynistic and people were upset about that.
Did I? What did I even
Oh,
say? I
I
don't
s-
even
I
remember.
saw-
You
I
kept
saw a
you
couple
kept
of
joking about
comments
like
about
women
that.
and stuff, which
Oh my god! Shut the fuck up, you fucking.
I
gay
mean,
faggot
to be
piece
fair,
of
Kate
shit.
Applegate's like husband, his like Twitter banner is impeach Trump, so I'm sure there's a bunch of like
Okay.
libs
Okay.
from that camp.
Understood. But it's jokes and japes, my dudes. I love women.
I mean, as soon
they're
as
my
Guilty Gear
favorite
Strive
slave
was
class.
announced, a bunch of Guilty Gear people came to the Guilty Gear lecture, and they were
Yeah,
like, "Why are you saying fag so much? This is
Oh,
gross."
yeah,
and
right.
and I was like, "Oh, okay."
But
Here's the
it's always
normies
nice.
coming in.
It's the normies, but it's nice to feel new voices, new people, new eyes on what's going on.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, in the Jennifer Diane Wrights lecture, Munchie has that great moment where he's like, "I feel scared because I know it's true."
yeah, that's right. That's the thing. Munchie's
yeah.
got so many great lines like that all the time. I don't know. Maybe he grates initially, and then you warm up to him over
I mean,
a while.
what do people say? Because he's too loud, or because he said
Because he put on a
nigger
red
and-
light too
yeah,
much and whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's that. Maybe they just hate Mexicans. They're probably just racist. That's probably what it is.
Gotta throw that back in their face.
You know what? You know what? It is that.
Yeah, I
actually.
Was I going to say anything else about this Munchie situation? You know, the other thing is, I think Munchie has also said that like the PCP and podcasts aren't like that fun for him. He has definitely said things along those lines, which is surprising, and I don't understand.
Mage also said that. Right before bouncing forever.
Munchie, it's time for a Mage Act 2. Here we go, everybody.
God.
Rut-row.
I don't
Purple
get
and
it.
Pink.
I really don't get it. It is like not hard. It's not like that difficult to do.
I totally agree, and I wish people would do it because I feel like it makes the show better. And also, just take the fucking money, people. Just take the fucking like Digi. Like I get it, but even then, I guarantee you, Digi's 2 hours isn't better spent on the PCB to make $50 than whatever else he's doing. I'm sure that time would be worth it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he spends a lot of his time doing things that don't even make money.
So you're saying he just has other priorities in general?
Making beats or whatever. Yeah. Making
okay.
raps.
You know what? That's fine. I guess money is not the primary concern, but I like having him on. I like having different voices, so I just wish you would. I guess it's just a selfish thing.
Sure.
I just wish everybody would.
Digi
But like
brings
with
good
Digi,
stuff.
it's like
Yeah.
with Digi, it's like he doesn't necessarily need it. Munchie might. I think Munchie doesn't think he needs money, but he does.
He's going into that debt, baby. At least I think he is. I assume. I don't actually know. Yeah. In comes the train of adulthood at light speed. How fun. Is he still in year 1 of his schooling?
Yeah, he's a freshman.
Fucking nerd. I hope somebody bullied him today.
Fortunately, I know that him and Kazi are both
Yeah.
working on the Vaporette pages, so I can give them their $250 for
Excellent.
that.
Excellent.
Yes.
Being in
I'm
college-
overpaying. I said I was going to give all the guest artists 50 cents for every copy that sold, which would be like $180. But I was like, I might sell more later. I'll just fucking round up 250.
200.
Bam.
250,
Yeah.
That's pretty generous rounding.
Yeah. I want to give them what good because they
Is this
did good work.
is
and I
all
want
of that
them
covered
to
by the
be
Kickstarter?
Rewarded.
I'm just curious. Is like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have six guest artists at $250 a piece is $1,500.
$150.
That's
Yeah.
well within parameters.
Excellent. That's God, is it such a crazy thing? I just want to exist in a space of life where like I'm paying for things based on my income and drawing some salary. Wouldn't that would be lovely.
Paying for things based on your income.
Well, I mean, I'm
drawing a
operating in the
salary.
space above the line of losing money every month. That's all I'm talking about, and I'm not currently doing it. That's all.
Oh yeah,
That's all I'm
that's
saying.
great. You should try it.
I used to do it, but I gave it up.
You should give that a spin.
The fact that Ben,
it's good
out
on
of
the
all
other
of us,
other
is
side.
the one not bleeding money, it just blows my mind. But
I gotta respect
that-
that Ben has just adjusted his spending in life to acclimate.
That is
and,
weird.
you
That
know?
is. I
you
mean,
know what?
I mean,
I had to, just before the podcast started, I flipped my shit because I had to pay the fucking registration renewal for my car. They're charging me to re-register it, even though I already registered it. It's like, every couple years you have to re-register.
Yeah,
I'm like, why? The car hasn't changed. The driver hasn't changed. Nothing has changed.
A little fucked up. It could have gotten maybe the mufflers busted.
Nothing has changed. It's the same fucking car. And I was like losing my goddamn mind. I'm like, I'm fine with paying for healthcare if everybody gets healthcare, but this is like for nothing. For literally nothing.
I'm just curious, how much did that cost?
It was
How much
$60.
That's more than I thought. That's Animal Crossing for Switch, ladies and
That's
gentlemen.
$60,
Down the drain.
and then like I pay like $120 a month in insurance, and it's just like fuck cars.
Ugh.
Unga
I'm
bunga.
so glad to live near Boston and not need a car. This is like one of the driving motivators for how I have like shaped my life is my desire to not require a car to go anywhere.
Fair enough.
Of course, now I can't go anywhere at all.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
use public transportation.
Well, I'm
or
even
I'll
more
die.
fucked because I can't really go anywhere because as soon as they lock down Massachusetts, I'll still be paying for the fucking car.
That's yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Michelle's work just got furloughed for a week, so she's going to do that their unemployment for a month, which
God.
The dog place.
I wish I
Yeah,
could get
the
on
dog
unemployment,
place.
but that wasn't working for me.
I know. I was
either.
thinking it's funny. I mean,
Wait,
Michelle's
okay,
being,
okay.
Yeah, go on.
No, go on.
I was just saying she's being like officially furloughed, so I'm pretty. We're gonna look into it. So she like can get a pay for a month. I mean, because the government shut down the business. Only fair the government pay for what they're fucking people over with.
Like I think that would probably qualify for unemployment insurance anytime.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like the new regulations like expanding who can apply for unemployment insurance, they're not in effect yet. Every morning I've been taking a look at the website, and it still says like the COVID-19 regulations are not in effect yet. Like don't register yet, which I accidentally did register, thinking they were in effect. So
bad?
like I guess I will just have to do it again.
They're not in
and
effect,
hopefully-
even though they have a whole big thing on the page about it. That's weird.
Yeah, well,
there might be a date where they start or something.
It says on the website, it's like CARES Act related unemployment benefits for the self-employed and others are currently unavailable through UI Online as DUA awaits federal guidance. They're awaiting federal guidance to actually like begin that.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Who knows when that'll happen.
They'll just keep pushing it back and like, oh, the crisis is over. I guess you guys are fine.
Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it, guys. Suck it up.
I mean, apparently, my understanding is that like not only is just like more people eligible under the CARES Act or whatever, but like also everyone who's on the program either previously or under the new things will just get like a bonus $600 a month, which is cool.
Not bad.
Not bad. Hope I qualify. Dunno.
I'll just take anything at this point.
Do I fucking qualify? I mean, I'm not going to do it, but do I qualify since I'm like a YouTuber and I quit my job like, 8 months ago or whatever?
You're technically self-employed.
You are self-employed and or a sole proprietor.
This crisis has taught me
that
that you absolutely need to fucking legitimately like set up a sole proprietorship because like we're all in the gray right now and we shouldn't be. Wait. Did we end up actually making the PCP a legit thing? I know we were talking about
We never actually did it. We never actually did.
The PCP qualifies easily.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't looked into it recently.
Nate,
anyway.
Nate, were you there when we were talking about it in the?
I saw your
the
chat
business?
and I read some of it, not all of it or anything.
Okay, well, like there is a thing called the Payroll Protection Act, and what it is like a business can basically get it's a loan supposedly.
It's a forgivable
and it's based
loan.
on like it's based on what your payroll is, and basically it's designed to they just give your business money and then it all gets forgiven however much you spend on like paying out payroll. So if we were to report what we paid in earnings for the last like 12 months or whatever, they would take that do a calculation, determine an amount. We would just get that amount, and then as long as we spent it paying ourselves money for the podcast, they would just be like, oh, it went to payroll, it's forgiven.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I get it.
Yeah. I don't know if we need to be like officially an LLC or something for that to apply. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were.
Is this why you were saying that we would want to pay out the Kickstarter money ahead of time?
Yes, I did a quick calculation to determine like we could increase our total payouts over the last 12 months if we paid out some of the money from the Radcon fund and then use the additional money we would then qualify for to like pay out the remainder of the Radcon fund.
I don't even think we would have to like physically move them, or physically, but like literally move the money. I'm sure like it's on the books. That's the plan. You wouldn't even have to move it all. Just say that that's what you're doing with it.
Now that I think about it,
so.
maybe that was a wasted effort because we could, since we just kind of pay out on a pretty, we have a system, but it's not like we have like actual payroll. We don't have like W-2s or whatever. Yeah. We could just pay out all of it, like increase the amount that we qualify for, and then just like give it as bonuses to all of us. We could just give ourselves the extra and call it payroll because it's just as much payroll as anything else.
I would just take everything from everything that we get monthly because all the money goes to payroll that we make on Patreon. Right. And then all the extra like money after expenses for RadCon would just also be payroll, and that would just be added to payroll.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We don't need to. I was worried about. Okay, well, we would need to put it towards paying out the RadCon fund. No, we could just arbitrarily. We could just arbitrarily increase the amount we pay ourselves, and it would be payroll.
Is it of any issue that lots of the money from the RadCon thing is going to like expenses?
Well, I was going to say you would subtract the expenses first, and all the stuff that's left over would just be added to payroll because that's what it is.
However, they calculate how much you're entitled to based on how much you specifically.
I don't think it's just payroll though. I think other business expenses also qualify. So technically,
I would think
possibly the entire Kickstarter could qualify as an expense because that's what it was.
Yes. We could put it to expense. Yeah. It's certain expenses. Like it's only payroll that determines how much you qualify for, but other expenses are forgivable. Like payroll is one of them. Rent and mortgage payments are another one.
Well, then what you would probably do is you would
might be some other
you would use the number for your payroll, and then if you get the money, we would just use that to pay for the RadCon expenses, and then we can add all the money that we would have used from the RadCon expenses for additional payroll.
I mean, only if those expenses are covered under the short list of the qualifying thing. Guys, I mean, we already paid for the bed and breakfast, so I don't know if we could, or for the house. So I don't know if we could claim
these are interesting ideas. I think if we wanted to act on them, I think it would be smart to discuss it with a lawyer, even somebody who's cheap or someone who knows these things, so as to avoid big issues with large sums of money. But
I agree.
I'm not overly opposed to it. It seems to be kind of the intent of what these things exist for.
Partially. I don't think we necessarily would need a lawyer.
I'm not saying I would at least like to confer with someone because this is a slightly risky thing.
We have an aunt who's an accountant.
Even talking to her, maybe that would be enough. Yeah. I don't know.
I talked to my accountant about all this shit, and he's like, I haven't even looked at it yet. I'm like, what good are you?
Okay. Yeah.
You have an accountant.
I mean, I go to someone for my taxes, so he is an accountant. Okay. So I messaged him like, hey, what do you know about all this shit that's going on? He's like, duh, I don't fucking know shit. I'm like, oh.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, dude.
I mean, I literally just looked up YouTube videos talking about it.
Yeah.
You know more about it than my accountant does now.
Lol.
All right, we've been talking on and we're off the topic now.
I just want to say I actually get a lot of joy. I don't know. There's something very enjoyable to me about like looking into these like things and trying to sort of like calculate like how can I like derive the most benefit out of these things? Like what is the optimal play?
Deep down, Ben is a capitalist.
I said in the chat like the thing that I hate. Capitalism is bad because it has made me love money. And I hate that. I hate that, but it's true. I need it to live.
Money is freedom. Money is life. Money is...
It is. Yeah. And that sucks, but here we are.
Yeah. That's how it be. Okay. All right, well... Okay, we'll return to all these things. You keep your eye on the PCB feed, folks. You'll see what decisions, if any, were made related to any of these discussions and whatnot. And we're going to make more stuff. More rad content's coming, so keep your fucking eyes out.
Content is on its way. It's on its way, boys.
Let me see, by the time you hear this, I don't think if this comes out like tomorrow or the next day, probably won't be out, but soon my lecture will be out, so you'll all be able to enjoy it.
Yeah. Where is that?
It's ready. I actually think I finished the rendered right as we began recording. I'm just gonna look through it one more time and make sure it's okay.
I think Digi was working on his as well.
He better not release it the same fucking day as mine. That piece of shit. I'm gonna.
That would suck.
I would be very pissed and kill him. All right.
I have been linking in the end cards. I have been linking the end cards to the playlist of all of the lectures.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's the lecture playlist. That's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, because we have a lecture playlist on the channel.
Right.
So I've just been linking directly to the playlist so people can see them all.
I might link to that and the Radcon 4 one or something. I don't know.
That's makes sense.
Okay, people, more content coming. Gotta go make more cool shit. That's it. PCB episodes coming. You know how it is. Thanks for supporting, backers, patrons. Appreciate that. And all right, that's it.
Glad you could listen in to how we're going to spend your money.
Indeed.
Now
Hopefully
you know.
for the benefit of all. All right, we're out of here. See you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
Ah.